thank you so much, Andy, for this conversation.
You're welcome. Before I came to Oneness, I was doing my medical studies and worked as a doctor. And I was actually, since I can remember, since childhood, I was always falling into deep depressions every now and then. It was never, like completely gone. It was always there, sometimes more in the background. Then I felt quite good. And sometimes more in the foreground, more severe. Then I felt really, like not existing, like I better want to die or not being here. As much as I can remember since primary school, that's with me, and probably also before. That's like my background. It was always following me. When I had family, when I was married, I always thought like maybe this step could heal it. Maybe if I have children, it could heal it. But it never changed the sadness or the problem. It was actually an existential suffering. I just didn't know at that moment how to call it. With these depressions, I lived in my family. I had 5 children. I had a lot of work. I felt exhausted, burned out, and everything was too much. It was like not enjoying, it was like pain. It was really pain and it was suffering. The morning when I woke up, I was already scared. I was like in deep anxiety and I was already suffering. This went on, the morning was the worst. It went on then for a couple of hours, very bad, but then at like 12 or 1 o'clock became a little bit better. Never went away, and next morning it repeated exactly the same. I had a mother-in-law. She was spiritual. Once she gave me a book called Oneness. She said, read it. It's excellent. And I was reading it. I was skeptical. Um, I was doubting certain things, if it really happened this way. But in there was one prayer at the end, and this prayer, it moved me to tears. I was crying a lot. It was like just a 5 minutes prayer. It was touching me deeply. This connected me a bit. My mother-in-law said, now that you read this book, wouldn't you like to go to India and do a course with them? My answer was, Scientology also writes great books, but I would never go there. So, so she said, okay. But then still I was interested and I thought, maybe I could get once a Deeksha. And in Switzerland, there were just 2 people. There was one in the French part, which was far away, and there was one nearby giving also craniosacral therapy. So I called her for the craniosacral therapy and asked her if afterwards she could give me a Deeksha. And she agreed. I went there. The craniosacral therapy didn't do much to me. But then afterwards she gave me a Deeksha and it completely knocked me out. I was in a different world and like some peace that I never experienced before. It was so different that I thought she put something in the water that she gave me to drink because she always mentioned and stressed that I have to drink a lot of water in order to like digest these energies or to balance these energies. So I was very sure that it's in the water, like some medicaments. And so I called her again for a second appointment. And again, I went there for the therapy, and again, she said, like, drink a lot of water. And I just secretly, I poured it into the plant. I didn't drink it. When she came back for the Deeksha, she said, oh, good, you drank all the water. And I thought, like, now I have you. It's like all in the water. And she gave me the Deeksha. I mean, the Deeksha takes like 2, 3 minutes. It was very short.
Mm.
At the same knockout, I was again gone and I was like, wow. So it was not in the water.
No. Sorry, Andy, I just
Problem.
quickly add Deeksha. It's a Sanskrit word for those who are new to the movement. It simply means energy transfer. So what
Yeah.
Andy has received was energy transfer by our initiated devotees on his head, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. An energy
Thank you.
transfer I got. Then I was interested and I wanted to do this introduction course in Switzerland. And there, I mean, the course was so la la, medium,
Mm,
but there also was a Deeksha event,
mm,
again, an energy transfer
mm.
in the evening at the end of the course. After this transfer, there were like a couple of people, 3 or 4 people that gave that energy transfer. After this transfer, when I went back to the hotel room and wanted to sleep, it was like MTV, like these music videos, that change very quickly, the
Wow.
topics, and there were patterns, and it was flowing into each other, and it was like one of these psychedelic music videos.
Mm.
And I was very impressed because it lasted on for hours.
Whoa.
So I thought like, wow, it does something. I
Mm,
didn't exactly know what, but I saw that there was an effect.
mm,
Susie, which was my mother-in-law, asked again about going to India. And I said, well, I don't really know. But then she said, like, she needs someone who organizes the travel, who translates, who is there with her, because alone she wouldn't go. And then I said, okay, let's go. So I was like a travel companion and an organizer and a translator. So that was the first reason why I went to India. And in India, I remember on the first day, there was a lot of administrative things, like queuing, finding your bed. And it was so much that I thought on the first day, this was a mistake. I should not have come.
coming from Switzerland, if I may
Yeah.
add, and the things are so organized and so efficient.
Yes, it was so different. And I really thought, I should. But
But
then the course, it was more like a lot of also psychological helps, and teachings were great. Um, and it gave me some inner joy and freedom and peace that I realized, so that when I came home, I thought, okay, it helps me. It helps me in my daily life. It helps me in my inner state. And I want to do more. So I did this level 1 and 2, which was like 2 other courses. And then some restructuring happened in the movement and I left it.
mm,
I completely left it. Months later, I had nothing to do anymore with the movement. I went to a marriage of a friend. I was invited. And at this dining table, there was a guy who I knew, but we didn't know from where. So we tried to find out the whole evening, where do we know each other from? And suddenly, he said, oh, I know, it's from Deeksha, from Oneness. And
wow.
I said, oh, yes, you're right, but I'm not in there anymore. And he said, oh, you have to do this course. It's called a trainer course.
Mm,
It's so excellent. And I said, no, no, I'm out, so I will
mm,
not go there. And then he said, I can send you a recommendation. And with this recommendation, you can do the course because he's a trainer. And then I said, okay, I don't want to go, so I don't need this recommendation. But after all, when I came back home, he sent this email with the recommendation, nevertheless. So I had it. Then I thought, okay, maybe I should just apply for the course because I still cannot go or I
mm,
still can cancel it. So I applied for this course and forgot about it. Before this course started, I was in a extremely severe and deep depression.
mm,
It was so extreme or so deep that I decided to end my life. And I was driving away from the family to a place where actually also my mother committed suicide. It was a lake place. And I decided to do the same. And I was there waiting for the people to disappear, but they didn't. It was like a warm summer evening, and people were playing guitar and people were singing and at the fire. So I waited quite a long time, like 2 o'clock in the morning, till the last people disappeared. The moment I wanted to go out to the lake, it started to rain like never before. It rained extremely heavily. So I thought, okay, that's now also not a good time. So I wait in the car till the rain stops. And I was in the car waiting, and the rain went for about 2 hours, extremely heavily till 4 o'clock in the morning. And during this time, I cried and cried in self-pity about my life and myself and that it doesn't work and, like how poor I am. So after 2 hours of crying and crying and crying and crying, I was empty. I was completely empty. So at 4 o'clock, when the rain stopped, I was empty and I had no pressure anymore to kill myself. Like this suffering was completely gone at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, okay, the suffering is gone. I go back home, but I need a better way of committing suicide because this way it doesn't work. I need a pistol, a weapon. So I ordered a weapon. I had to fill out a couple of forms. And in order to get this, you have to wait for the approval that takes like 2 weeks.
Right.
And the summer holidays were starting, and I was afraid of going with my family on holiday because I thought they might notice it. I might look weird or like dissociated, so they might notice it. So I better go now to this training course in India because then I'm like away and no one will notice. And when I come back, I have the weapon.